Yo, my hair is getting so long. It's crazy how it like drops over my shoulder like that. Hey, what's up guys? I'm Gunther the Great, and today we're going to be talking about 3 easy ways to start dreadlocks. And just a quick disclaimer, this is for any hair type, and I'm going to give you a method for each hair type and any hair type. Now, if you don't know your hair type, I'll leave a link down below that will tell you what your hair type is, because you want to base the method on what you get dreadlocks off of the hair type that you know you are. So if this is your first time watching me, I've had a set of dreadlocks. I'm actually working on my second set right now, but the first set I had, I started out with sponge rub and eventually did all these other methods. I basically did every single method you could possibly do with your hair, and that's the reason why I make these videos, is to tell people what the best method for their hair type is, and it really works, guys. So if this is your first time watching me, make sure to go follow me on Instagram. It's Gunther the Great, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay guys, let's get straight into it. The first method I want to talk about is instant dreadlocks. Now, how do you get instant dreadlocks? You do it with a crochet needle. A crochet needle is definitely a necessity if you plan on having or do have dreadlocks and you don't have one. I would definitely encourage you guys to go pick one up. I'm gonna link all the products that I'm using or mentioning in today's video down below, so make sure to go check it out. Also, all the products that I'm gonna be talking about in today's video are gonna be on greatlocks.com, but I'll talk more about that later on in the video. So instant dreadlocks. What is the best hair type to do instant dreadlocks with? Now, to be completely honest with, you can do this with any hair type, because with instant dreadlocks, you're literally creating the dreadlock yourself. You take as much time as you would like, and you put as much effort you would like towards it. So if you plan on getting instant dreadlocks, you can have any hair type. So I'll go ahead and link a video down below on how to actually get instant dreadlocks. I did a video on it not too long ago on one of my friends, Diddy. I've actually used this method on a straight hair as well. So you can see that I used it on very tight curl pattern all the way down to straight hair. So it's a wide range of hair types you can do in order to do this method. Now, there are a couple products you would only use with the instant locking method. Of course, like I mentioned, a crochet needle, which will be linked down below. You want to use some water as well, and that's kind of a given. You're going to use water for most of the methods besides a couple, and I'll mention those later on. But for the instant locking method, you will be using a little bit of water. You don't want to use too much, because then it'll become slippery, and then it's just harder for the hair to grab onto each other, because let's face it, dry hair locks the best. Wet hair or moist hair or moisturized hair does not lock as good as dry hair. That's why during the locking process, you want to make sure that your hair is nice and clean, and you want to wash your hair constantly, because that will eventually dry out your hair, and which will cause it to lock together. Because if you notice, your hair will start to tangle up for some odd reason when your hair is clean. If you don't use any moisturizer, your hair will tangle up. Like for me, for instance, I'm just completely washing my hair and not using any conditioner whatsoever, and then it allows it to, you know, get together and tangle up. Because dreadlocks at its very lowest form is tangled hair. So guys, I listed this as my #1 method because it is my favorite, and I think it works for every single person, like I said, because I've done it on someone with the tightest curl pattern, which was a 4C, all the way down to a 1 hair type. And it really works, guys. Now let's move on to method #2, and that is twist and rip. And you guys can guess that this is for a straight hair type. This is for the ones all the way to probably a 3A. A lot of you are like, but a 3A is a curl, but you can actually use this on a curl. You don't want to use this on a really tight curl, which I'm talking about from, 3B all the way to 4C. But since you have big, loose curls, your hair is going to be perfect for twist and rip. It's going to actually hold a lot better than if your hair was a really tight curl pattern. And if you have a really tight curl pattern, it is pointless to even do twist and rip, because it's not going to really work the way you would like it to. It just works really well on straight hair, because what it's essentially doing is when you twist the hair and pull it down, it's pulling the straight hair and making it curl up, which essentially that's what you want to do. That's how dreadlocks are established. It's curly hair tangling together. So hair will just slip by each other if it's straight, so it literally just go all over the place. That's why you notice people with straighter hair, their hair will tend to look more frizzy than if your hair is, more of a curl or a tight curl. And that's why you get the stigma on people that say, yo, white people can't get dreadlocks because they don't look good. And that's just people's opinions. You don't listen to those people. If you want dreadlocks, go ahead and get them, because there's actually methods to get them, and I think they look great. So yes, if you have 1 to a 3A of the hair types, I would definitely recommend twist and rip, and it'll save you a whole bunch of time, guys. I do not recommend using twisting with gel. I don't recommend doing, sponge rubbing, because people have tried it. Don't do freeform, especially if you want to go for a maintained look. Do twist and rip, guys, because it'll save you a whole bunch of time. And if you follow twist and rip up with the first method that I mentioned, crochet hooking or instant dreadlock method, it will help you out and your dreadlocks will look immaculate. So we had a generalized method, which was the instant locking, and then we have a straight hair method. Now we need to look at something for more of the curly hair patterns from 3B all the way to 4C. And this method is the sponge rub method, or the towel rub method, which is actually what I did on my first set of locks. Whether you choose a sponge or a towel, I would recommend a sponge because it gets more of a cylindrical look and more of a maintained look than if you were to use a towel, and I definitely would recommend using a microfiber towel if you're going to use any towels. But go ahead and pick up a dread sponge if you have those hair types. And just to reiterate, if you don't know your hair type, click the link down below that says what is your hair type, and it'll show you exactly what your hair type is. This is one of my favorite methods, the sponge rub method. The sponge rub method is one of my favorite methods, not only just because I did it on myself, but because it actually works. I've had my friend Diddy do it, I've had his brother Dunate do it, and you've seen Taj when I did it on him. You can see that this actually works really well, especially once you get the hang of it. And obviously if you watch tutorials, it'll help you out, but you won't really know until you try it for yourself, and you'll see the results. Now there's a catch when it comes to a sponge rub. I would recommend this on a hair length from 1 inch all the way to possibly 4 inches, but I would probably stay within like 1 to 3 inches of hair length in order to start your sponge rub dreadlocks. Because if your hair is too long, it's not going to be able to do it. Like, I can't do this with this long hair because it's just going to push my hair around. But if your hair is short, your hair will be able to suck into the holes in the sponge. That's why the holes are there. Your hair will go into the holes, and when you do the coiling, you're coiling up those hairs that are in the holes. So that's essentially what you're doing. It's basically twisting your hair, but with multiple hands, because it has all the holes in there. But I explained the whole thing in the video, link down below. So guys, those are 3 methods that I recommend anybody to try. Obviously pick a method that goes with your hair type. You can go with the instant dreadlocking method, which works with any hair type. Or if you want to be more direct, do a method that fits your hair type in particular. Like if you have straight hair, do twist and rip. I definitely recommend it. It's going to work out a whole bunch. And if you have more of a tighter curl pattern, I would definitely recommend sponge rub because that's a really cool look on dreadlocks. Now mind you, all these methods are ways to start your dreadlocks. You don't have to maintain your dreadlocks like this all the time. So after you start a sponge, you can go in with twisting and gel and maintain them and make them look even more neat. Same thing with twist and rip, you can go in with twisting and gel, make them look more neat over time. And same thing with instant dreadlocks, you can go in with twisting and gel or any other method, interlocking or whatever you choose, in order to make them look more neat and more mature. And the reason I listed these 3 methods is because these are all methods that I'm comfortable with and I've done on myself and on others, and I'm telling you guys, this works out a whole bunch and you should try it. So the crochet needle for the instant method is going to be linked down below, and the cool thing about twist and rip, it doesn't take any product whatsoever. And when it comes to the dread sponge, I'll link that down below as well. And if you want to be curious and figure out other methods and different products, go to greatlocks.com. It has literally all of your hair needs. If you have dreadlocks or plan on getting dreadlocks, it's basically all of the necessities you need to start them. I would call it the dreadlock starter pack. So I definitely recommend to go check that out. But I think we're at the point in the video to where I'm going to be answering the question of the day. So let's head over to my computer. Okay guys, the question of the day is from LeBron James. Wow, what a coincidence. Would my hair lock up at different times since my hair is much more curlier and more coarse on the sides and on the back of my head than on the top and the front? Now this is actually a really good question, and it's a very valid question because on every single person, their hair on the sides and the back is typically more coarse and more thick and sometimes more curly than the hair that is on the top of your head. I know that on the hairline of everybody, that's usually the thinnest part, and then it's the thickest on the back, because the fun fact is all of this hair that is on the sides and the back of your head, that hair stays permanently. That's why when people get hair transplants, they'll transfer these hairs from the back of the head onto the top of their head, and they just take the hair follicle out and plant them up there. But that's a whole other story. Now, will your hair lock up at different times? Yes, it will, but it's not a huge difference. When I had my first set of locks, the dreadlocks on the back and on the sides locked up really quick, and those ended up being thicker. Because one mistake that I made when I was starting my first set of locks is that I thought the dreadlocks on the back of my head were looking thin. So I doubled them up, maybe tripled up some of them, and they eventually became thicker than the ones in the front. So they will, 1, lock up at different rates, and 2, you might even end up being thicker than the ones on the top of your head. Now don't think that you're different just because the hair on the top of your head is thinner than the hair on the sides of your head. Everybody is like that, and it's going to be different for everybody. So to answer your question, your hair possibly will lock at a different rate just because of how coarse the hair on the sides is, but it's not going to be a huge difference. So don't consider that to be a problem. But you guys, that's the time we had for today. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully you guys do have an amazing day. Matter of fact, have a great day. Peace out and God bless.